Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated champs, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me blacks. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. That in 1,000 when you check your stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask. I just really hit the field. 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 Boy, I'm about to hit the field.
And we're back. Welcome to the first episode of the Hitting the Field podcast for the year 2020. It's crazy that we're here in 2020, but we are going to talk some NFL Divisional Round football today. We got 2 guys to my right. We got a vet and we got a rookie, a real rookie. But to my closest right, we have Mr. Christopher Wolf. Chris, Seahawks won on Sunday. Congratulations, man.
Go Hawks. And we got one of the best quarterbacks in the league in Russell Wilson. I only got enough credit for it, but we'll dive into that a little later.
Good teaser. And to my far right, real rookie. I'll tell you this, guys. We never met face to face until about an hour ago. About an hour before this podcast got set up. But this guy definitely knows his football after just talking to him for about 5 minutes. So we're definitely have a qualified person on the Hitting Field podcast, Mr. Jeff Laux. You can tell the people.
You can call me Jeffrey Laux, Lau, whichever.
But what is it?
It is going to be Laux.
Laux.
Yes, sir.
So the X is part of the pronunciation.
Yes, sir.
So Laux. Okay. That's going to set you apart. There's a lot of Jeff Laux. There's a lot of Jeff Laux. There's not a Jeff Laux. So you are the first and the one and only Jeff Laux.
Yes, sir.
So we got some 4 games this weekend to talk about, and let's just go right into it. 49ers, number 1 seed in the NFC. They have their first game of the postseason against the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Jeff, I'm going to start with you, the rookie on the panel. Did we expect this to be a thing before Sunday?
No, but what I can say, what I can say is that Kirk Cousins has finally eliminated his demons that have been haunting him since the 0-6, 0-7, 0-8. Every time he hits the Monday Night Football scene, just can't win a game. But now in the biggest stage of his career, he finally threw a game-winning touchdown pass to Kyle Rudolph. That could be challenged as OPI, but it looks pretty well off for them.
I mean, do you really think that his demons are officially gone, though? Like, really? He has as many wins as Tim Tebow in the playoffs. He has as many wins as former Browns legend and Texas legend Brock Osweiler. So, has he really, trashed his demons yet, Chris? Or is this... I mean, this is definitely a step in the right direction. Look, Kirk Cousins played fantastic on Sunday. Mm-hmm. But is he really done yet?
I think this helps a lot because he has not been really good in primetime games. But going into that game in his career, he was 6-30 against teams that finished the season with a winning record.
I think it was 0-15 against teams that had won at least 12 games.
Yeah,
his first win among teams that had won at least 12 games too.
So, having that type of record and then going on the road and beating a 13-3 Saints team that had maybe the best wide receiver in the league, and Michael Thomas actually held him in check for a pretty decent mark. I mean, he didn't have the type of game you would think he would have. I mean, I think he kept him out of the end zone, if I'm not mistaken. They kept him out of the end zone. So, they guarded him well, and Kirk Cousins played well enough. He made throws down the field. Marcus Lattimore went out of the game for some. He attacked it with Adam Thielen, and they were successful. He did what he was supposed to do. Dalvin Cook did what he was supposed to do. They're going to need him more, obviously, for the 49er game, because I think they're going to need to run the football to be able to set up play action to get to Diggs and Thielen and Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah. Michael Thomas 7 catches, 70 yards on Sunday. So they did keep him out of the end zone. And especially for those Vikings corners, they've gotten a lot of criticism this year for, Xavier Rhodes has lost a step, people say, and Trey Waynes has been very iffy. I feel like he's always been iffy. And Mike Hughes is, shout out Built by UCF, Mike Hughes. He's been in and out of the lineup with injuries. So though that cornerback unit has had a rough year, and the fact that they were able to keep Michael Thomas to just 70 yards, I think, is a testament, and is part of the reason why the team won. I mean, that's a big reason why the Saints have been able to win this year as consistently as they have been, and the fact that they were able to keep him in check, I think, is definitely something that has to be noted here. But, Jeff, the Niners are a team that they run the football. That's a running football team. How are the Vikings going to be able to combat that running attack?
So one thing we saw against the Saints is that Drew Brees was never comfortable in the pocket. And when we're talking about the run, I mean, Taysom Hill was the only fantastic player by standards on the Saints.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the best play of the game for the Saints.
He was the leading rusher.
But Alvin Kamara never made an impact. Latavius Murray never made an impact. Well, Latavius Murray was running all over teams all this season. I think the Vikings D-line is mightily underrated. I think that Everson Griffin has really molded together that group and has told them, don't let the quarterback get comfortable, crash the pocket, just make sure that running is tough against us and make sure that blitzing is, an optimum ability of our team. And it really showed against an amazing Drew Brees that broke a fantastic record this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people kind of wrote off the Vikings because, they're playing the Saints. Saints were, one win away from being the number one seed in the NFC. A lot of people chose the Saints to go to the Super Bowl, and very few people expected them to be bounced in round one. I certainly didn't. And I think, like many others, I believe that they were going to go further than just the divisional round. I thought they had the tools to go all the way, and they probably did. That's what's so beautiful, though, about this year in the divisional rounds. You could really make a case for any of these 8 teams to win. I really don't think, because the thing is, I feel like any team that might have had doubts, Texans, Titans, Vikings, they looked... they didn't have a lot of supporters coming in. And I'm not saying that one of them is going to the Super Bowl, but I do believe that they have proven why they can win, even with the Vikings matchup against the 49ers, because you bring up real good points, Jeff, about, that front seven could give the Niners some trouble. And, I mean, look, the Niners are going to have 5-6 days to prepare for the Vikings. That's plenty of time. But you got to say... nobody in the Niners locker room, very few people believed they were going to have to go against Everson Griffin, Danielle Hunter, Anthony Barr, those guys. And they, maybe they were expecting to play Seattle, a team that they're a lot more familiar with, or they're expecting to play Philadelphia, a team that they felt that they could beat. Minnesota is just, they're a wild card. I mean, they are actually a wild card. So, Chris, I'm just going to ask you point blank. I mean, look, here's the thing, though. The 49ers are the number one team in the NFC for a reason. Mm-hmm. So give me the case for the 49ers to win Saturday.
They will win. They will win this game because they can win this game because they will be able to stop Dalvin Cook, because that's the person you got to stop first, because it's not Kirk Cousins you stop. It all starts with Dalvin Cook. When he runs the ball well, that gets Kirk Cousins going. If you can contain him, that gets Kirk Cousins off schedule, and you can force some turnovers, get sacks, interceptions, maybe some easy defensive touchdowns or short fields, which will help somebody. Because they also, despite Garoppolo's being in New England for a couple of those Super Bowls, I mean, being the backup, he's never played a snap in the postseason. So... he's inexperienced in the postseason. And a lot of that offense is inexperienced. George Kittle has to play in the playoff game. You have a rookie wide receiver in Deebo Samuel. Bourne has to play in the playoff game. Emmanuel Sanders has a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah. And
Tevin Coleman has played in the Super Bowl as well.
But he's not going to play.
And
Mostert
and Breida have not played in those games. So it's going to be very interesting. But they will win this game with balance. Again, with them, Mostert and Breida set up Garoppolo.
Yeah, just like how Dalvin Cook sets up Kirk Cousins. But also something that I want to mention, Jeff, Quan Alexander is projected to come back and make that front seven just that more dangerous. And D Ford is going to come back too. That front seven without them was lethal. Add those two in the mix. How does bringing those two back change this game?
Look, Bosa's been shredding apart offensive lines all year long. He's been healthy. He's been versatile. I mean, overall, that their defense is the scariest defense in the league by far. Richard Sherman has regained his balance ever since injuring himself, and then coming back on a 1-year, $6 million deal. A prove-it year. He's really proved some things. He's going to get offered a max contract. I mean, their defense is just stacked, and when you bring in Quan Alexander, who is a great linebacker, he's going to come back in and enforce and make sure that Dalvin Cook, stays the role that they want to put on him.
And then you have Greenlaw as in the linebacker core. He kind of stopped Seattle's chances at winning the NFC West, quite literally.
1 inch.
1 inch. Yeah, 1 inch. So you got Greenlaw, Armstead, Buckner, Bosa,
I'll shout out to those Oregon guys, Armstead and Buckner.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna ask you guys point blank, who you got? Who you got, Jeff?
I'm gonna go with underdog. I think Kirk Cousins comes out and defeats his demons once again. Really? I think with
Jeff, I did not know you an hour ago, and you are already coming with the flames, bro.
Look, I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay.
I'll
let you explain.
I think that with a healthy Thielen, a Stephon Diggs that wants to prove something. Stephon Diggs went to a week ago's game saying, "I want the ball at halftime" to Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins got him the ball. They won. I mean, Dalvin Cook has been on fire. Their offensive line has played relatively well. I mean, they held a Cameron Jordan led defensive line and kept them in check the whole game. You didn't see Kirk Cousins on the ground that often. So if the Vikings, I think the Vikings just need to shut down that defensive line, and I think that the Vikings will have a great chance of beating the 49ers. I think the 49ers' Achilles heel is Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think he has the it factor.
All right.
Ooh.
Go, Chris. Chris, who you got?
It's really tough. I mean, I'm going to give the edge. I'm going to give the edge to San Fran.
Okay.
Because I think they're at home. West Coast trips for East Coast teams they don't work out sometimes. But I will have to say this. I will not be super surprised if the Vikings do beat the Niners, though. I'm going to pick the Niners. Won't be surprised if the Vikings do win. Because on paper, the Vikings offense is actually better than the 49ers. They have better wide receivers.
Are you sure about that, though?
I think
so.
Remember,
Kirk Cousins, a month into the season, had the worst offense in the league. And the Niners put up 48 points on the Saints.
That's why I said.
Let's not forget that.
That's why. But they also gave up 48, though.
I mean, I don't think that's going to happen with the defense again.
I don't think it will, but I just think the Vikings do, on paper, maybe not on the field, but on paper, have just as talented of a roster as the Niners. It's close.
I think it's fair, but also you look back at that game, the Niners Saints game. That game decided the NFC.
Oh yeah, it definitely did.
If that game went the Saints' way, the Niners could be on the couch right now because they lost to the Vikings, or the Vikings could be on the couch because they lost to the Niners, and the Saints could be hosting this weekend. So
gain that inch. Seattle gains that inch.
I think
that would have been.
Yeah, I've been pretty high on the 49ers all year, and I'm going to stick with it. I actually think the Niners are going to win this game, and it won't be that close. I think we're looking at a multiple score game. And here's why. I just think that the Vikings coming off 5 days rest for the Vikings after an overtime win, and the Niners have nearly 2 weeks rest. I think that will play a factor. And the fact that they like the best team in the NFC is getting better at the front seven, because here's the thing: the game we won in the trenches. Can the front seven? I think at the front seven of I think whichever front seven executes better is going to win this game, and I'm more likely to see the San Francisco front seven, who has been dominant all year long, stop Dalvin Cook. Because I also think that Dalvin Cook is the heartbeat of that Minnesota offense. Whereas for San Francisco, I feel like even like if they can't get the running game going, I feel like they can get George Kittle going. They can get Emmanuel Sanders going, Deebo Samuel and end around. Like you can get they have more people that can that's why Jimmy Garoppolo is not the end all be all for that team, because he has so many weapons around him. I don't think that Kirk Cousins, although he has Diggs and Thielen, probably one of the best top 2 receiver core in the league, I feel like it takes more for them to get going from the quarterback than it does for the Niners. And that's why I'm going to take the Niners in this one. So we're a bit of a split house divided right here for the first game, but we're gonna transition to the Saturday night game. So a little less of a surprise, but the Tennessee Titans they knocked down the defending champion Patriots, and the whole crowd went wild, and all of America rejoiced. Isn't it ironic how all of America rejoiced when the Patriots lost? I mean, does that mean that we are an unpatriotic nation as the United States of America?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just gonna seem weird. I mean, you don't even. It's not even that they lost in the first. I mean, they had been to so many AFC championships in a row. It's just like it's not even just like divisional.
Tom Brady can have like an actual vacation this year.
Got 2 extra weeks.
Yeah,
got those. No, more than that actually. I mean, more like a month. Because the Super Bowl, I mean, he got more than a month off now. Do what he wants to do.
Jeff, how weird is it that when was the last time for you, like in school? Like what grade were you in school when the last time the Patriots were not in this stage of we're looking at 2010.
Oh my goodness. That's like what, my 5th grade, 6th grade year.
So you weren't even in middle school yet by the time, and you're in college right now.
I was in 8th.
That's how long it's been.
I was in 8th.
So you weren't even in high school, and you're a senior in college right now. For me, it was I think I was 6th grade, 5th grade. Yeah.
Man, the last
crazy.
I mean, 2010 was the last time.
2010,
and
the president was Barack Obama.
That was the beast mode run that playoffs.
Yeah, that was the year.
Man.
So enough about the Patriots because they don't deserve any more airtime than we're already giving them. But Ravens, the Ravens have not lost since late September.
I think week 4.
Yeah, I think mistaken. Week 4 against the
Cleveland
Browns. Jeff, how does it feel that your Cleveland Browns are the last team to stop the Baltimore Ravens?
I feel like the Browns are the Ravens' Achilles heel. Even though they did beat us in our second game, I felt like we defeated ourselves in that game. I think that the Ravens suffer when they play a team that's dominant at running back and can run inside zones.
Oh, well, guess who's dominant at running back and can run inside zones? The Tennessee Titans. Derrick Henry, I'll tell you guys this. Derrick Henry is probably the most dominant playoff running back that we have seen in a long, long time.
That's good.
Like, there were years where there would be like Joe Flacco would get hot, and that was just out of nowhere. It's been a while since we've seen a running back on this level. And so do either of you think that the Titans can win this game? Because if you guys don't, I'm going to give them the case for the Titans, but I want to give you guys the opportunity here. If you think that give me what the Titans' game plan should be going into this weekend in order to get themselves to the AFC Championship.
Game plan. Do not run outside zone, run inside zone, run tosses. If you run outside zone, You know, the linebackers of the Ravens are going to eat you up. They're ranked number 2 in the nation right now for outside zone stoppage. While Derrick Henry, that's what he likes to do. You know, I say run Henry as a Dion Lewis type. You know, you already have a great receiving back in Dion Lewis, but, you know, bring out maybe 2 running backs on the field at the same time, maybe run some trickery. You know, the Ravens' defense aren't world beaters, you know. I think that their defense has a lot of flaws, but they're still a solid team overall. I mean, Judon has come out of nowhere for the Ravens and has played fantastic. I mean, their corners are a little suspect at the end of the day, but then again, A.J. Brown only had 1 catch against the Patriots. I mean, he was being shadowed by the best corner in the game, PFF-wise, but, I mean, he hasn't been impressive since Week 16 when they did play... I'm pretty sure.
No, he was impressive against the Texans.
Yeah.
17.
Yeah.
So,
17.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the 17.
Yeah, he kind of torched us, but yeah. But
I mean, but it is the Texans secondary. Your secondary.
And it was our backup secondary. But he still torched us.
And I also look at the Titans. They won with they didn't really have to throw. Their leading receiver was Anthony
Firkser, Harvard University, or Anthony Firkser.
Oh, and Derrick Henry was 1 yard away from leading them in receiving. I mean,
but that was a big play in that game. If you really think about it, that was the play that set them up for the game go-ahead score late in the second quarter.
Everyone doesn't call Derrick Henry much of a receiving back, but showed some pretty good receiving skills and running yards after the catch there too, and. I mean, they were determined to run. I mean, 40 of their 40 run plays, only 16 pass attempts. That's really big.
Yeah. I think the thing when you have a running back, the thing is when you have a quarterback that is dominant, that is one thing because they can get points on the board really quickly. But here's the thing: the Titans have the best running back in the game. And when you have a running back that can get you a first down every other play, at least, that kills clock. And that wears out the defense. Mm-hmm. And when the Titans have the ball, that means that the Ravens don't have the ball. And that is how you beat the teams that have those really good quarterbacks. Your Lamar Jacksons, your Patrick Mahomes, your Russell Wilsons, those quarterbacks, those teams, that's how you beat them. You beat them by running the football and getting the ball out of their hands and not turning the ball over. That's how you win these games. And that is ultimately what the Bills didn't do right against the Texans. They didn't run the ball enough and kill enough clocks because Deshaun Watson was able to come in and save the day or ruin the day, depending on what side you fell on for that wedding. But that's why I think the Titans can win this game. However, this is MVP Lamar Jackson we're talking about. And Lamar Jackson has not lost a football game since the Cleveland Browns in week 4, and the Cleveland Browns aren't showing up in the playoffs this season. So, I mean, look, the Ravens, are they the team to beat right now, Chris? Point blank, are they the team to beat right now?
I consider them yes, but they can be beaten. But they are the beaten one. They are the ones to be beaten right now.
They're the team you want to beat. Because if you beat the Ravens, you can make the argument you can beat anybody.
Because the Ravens beat. You know who they've beaten? You want to know all the teams they have beaten this season? They've beaten the Patriots. They have beaten They have beaten the Niners. They beaten the Niners. They beaten the Seahawks.
Rams.
They blew out the Rams. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was just.
They beat the Texans.
Yeah, the Texans. They beat the Titans.
The Texans are still in it though, so that's a pretty decent win.
I mean, they beat the Titans. I think, I'm not sure, or was it just a Houston game? I don't know.
That was only a Houston game.
All right, so, I mean, because they did lose to Kansas City. That was still a close game. They lost to Cleveland.
No, they did beat the Titans. Sorry.
So they beat.
Wait, no. Sorry.
Yeah.
They did not play the Ravens. No, because the South this year played. They did not play the North. They played the
East.
No, they played the West. They played the West. Yes. West, yes. Okay. So the North played the East. So they beat the Bills.
I mean, they've beaten a lot of good
teams. They beat the Bills on the road.
I mean, it's a 10-win team. I mean, they've beaten quite a few 10-plus win teams this season. They lost to the Chiefs early in the year. but that was still a really good win, a really good game, and
they competed.
But that brings me to that point. That's the one team I think that can dethrone
the Titans.
Is the Chiefs.
Okay, I
think the Chiefs.
So you got the Ravens this weekend.
I got the Ravens this weekend because I think Titans can only win literally if they control the ball and score touchdowns, not field goals. And I just don't believe they'll do that enough. I think the Ravens will have too much offense, so I have about a 10 to 14 point win. I have it close in the fourth quarter, but Ravens pull it away.
Yeah.
So and
that's true because look, they got. I mean, we won't count Logan Ryan's garbage time touchdown, but 14 points was able to beat the skeleton of Tom Brady. 14 points won't get you a win against Lamar Jackson. Jeff, is it Ravens? Is it Titans?
I'm gonna have to say Ravens, but I do think the Titans do have a decent chance. I mean, watch the Browns game. The Browns beat them 40-12. It ended up being 40-18 with a garbage time touchdown. But what the Browns really did was use Joe Schobert as a cover one right in the middle, and then they had Mack Wilson, our athletic rookie from Alabama, cover and watch over Lamar Jackson. I'm not going to say the Tennessee Titans should let Lamar Jackson throw the ball all over them because he has proven that his arm is lethal. But I say take away the run from him, Mark Ingram, and the rest of the running back crew and try to place it on his arm because their corners aren't terrible. You know, they played well against Julian Edelman, who's an amazing slot corner or slot wide receiver. They played well against Flub Dorsett, who's a speedy wide receiver. You know,
they can cover speed.
Yeah.
They can cover speed. Here's the thing with the Ravens. If you want to beat the Ravens, I feel like you have to get a little bit lucky. Now, because here's the thing, the Raven with the offense, it's kind of like pick your poison. Either you lose, you try to beat Lamar Jackson on the run, or you try to beat Lamar Jackson through the air. And if you try to beat, I think what the Titans have to do is you have to try to force Lamar Jackson to throw the football. And look, he has Mark Andrews, he has Hollywood Brown, he has Willie Snead. I mean, not on the same level as the other two, but he has people that he can incorporate into his passing game. And I feel like if you get beat by that, you kind of just got to throw your hands up and say, well, yeah. Or if you get, the thing is, because I do think that the Ravens are a run first team. They are a run first team. They have 2,000-yard receivers. 2,000-yard rushers. I'm sure Mark McCain ran for 1,000 yards this year. I'd be surprised if he didn't. I mean, I'll check that now, but
it was.
If you want to beat the Ravens, I feel like you have to force Lamar Jackson to throw the football.
Yeah, I totally agree because Lamar. What makes Lamar so dangerous is it starts with his run. I mean, he has such 4.3, 4.4, like 4.3 speed, 4.4 speed. He's as quick as anybody in the league, and it's just like he is. When he runs the football, it just deflates a whole team. They will let him throw it.
Deflates. Mark Ingram did run for 1,000 yards, by the way, in 15 games too.
They had two 1,000-yard rushers, and one of them was the quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see that all. You don't see 1,000-yard quarterbacks in the NFL. And in college football, you could see that about every season, but in the NFL, you just never see 1,000-yard quarterbacks. And he did that this season. I mean, he was one of the top 10 rushers in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, and he doesn't get
Lamar
designed
Jackson
runs.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson 12.06, Mark Ingram 10.18.
Lamar Jackson doesn't get design runs.
Yeah.
He has to get his off with scrambles.
Yeah.
One thing that is very underrated about the Ravens is their offensive line.
Yeah.
Marshall Yanda.
Yeah. Ronnie Stanley's an all-pro.
Yeah, he's been playing excellent. I mean, that whole line, Yanda has led that whole line to be able to block upfield, move fast, have enough agility to keep up with Lamar. I mean,
they are fit.
They are a great offense.
Yeah, they prove that offensive linemen are athletes.
Yeah. Greg Roman is a fantastic offensive coordinator, and I mean,
there's a reason why he should have a head coaching job sometime if he really wants one. He should have one.
Who still needs a head coach? What? Oh, the Cleveland Browns.
Cleveland Browns.
There you go.
Four candidates.
I knew I had someone. All right. We're going to transition from Saturday to Sunday now. Going to game number 3. Christopher Wolf's fist goes in the air for his Seahawks as they travel to Lambeau, take on the Packers. Now, look, earlier, when everyone was predicting the postseason before it all started, I don't think I saw one person pick the Packers to win and go to the NFC Championship. I think a lot of people, though, thought it was going to be the Saints going into Lambeau. However, not the case. Not the case this year because the Seahawks are going to Lambeau. So, Chris, I'm going to give you the floor and talk about the Seahawks and why they are going to win Sunday in Green Bay.
They're going to win in Green Bay because they have the second best quarterback in the league this season in Russell Wilson. He has played better than Aaron Rodgers this season under a horrible offensive line. It is ranked 29th in pass blocking, but yet he threw 31 touchdowns, only 5 picks, and threw for over 4,000 yards with that awful pass blocking. And I thought the offensive line pass blocked one of the best games in a little bit against a really good front with the Eagles. Only gave up 1 sack. Wilson only got sacked once. And him, along with he's going to be a Hall of Fame caliber receiver in DK Metcalf. I think of him as the next Calvin Johnson type receiver. He's got the same speed. I mean, he's got about the same size. He's matured, and the other 31 teams probably feel like, why did we pass up on this guy? I mean, last pick of the second round. This dude was considered maybe a top 15 pick going into the draft. He fell to the bottom of the second round, and Seattle traded up, picked him up. I knew it when him and Pete Carroll took their shirts off after the phone call. We knew that was going to be a special relationship, and he's proven it. If you count the postseason, counting postseason stats, DK has 65 catches for 1,060 yards and 8 touchdowns. If you count the postseason, it's
more than Calvin Johnson had in
really
his
good
first season.
Yeah, he dominated Calvin Johnson's season. And you also have Tyler Lockett. He's a 1,000-yard receiver. He can play slot and he can play out wide. Jacob Hollister's been a solid tight end, and I believe this could. I just have a feeling this may be a Marshawn Lynch caliber game. It's gonna be in the low 20s, maybe a little snow. It might be a game where you need to be physical, and this could be a game we may see a little bit of a resemblance of beast mode.
Okay, but Chris, let's bring it back to reality here a little bit. I hate to rain on your parade, but I'm going to do it. It's Seattle. I can rain on your parade whenever I want. How does it feel knowing that your season is now on the line with the running back who was not on a team before Week 17 that only got you, what? How many yards did he have on Sunday? 25? 7? Oh, I was being generous. 7.
19. Actually, you're being generous just for one guy. It was 19 for the 2 running backs.
19 total yards. So if the game is snowy and cold, I will look up Green Bay weather forecast in just a second. But if that's the game, wouldn't that advantage go to the Packers with Aaron Jones, who has 1,000 yards rushing on the season, who's playing in Lambeau for a place that he has played 8 times this season? Doesn't that benefit Green Bay here?
I think if you can say that it benefits them, but I think Seattle's D-line, that's the strength of this team, is run defense. It's not their outside game. It's the run. The run defense is their bread and butter. They rely on stopping the run and trying to get after the quarterback. Now, they've had one of the worst. They were one of the worst teams in the league getting after the quarterback. Only 28 sacks in the regular season. But I've seen, and when in some of these bigger games, I've seen them get more pressure on quarterbacks. Yeah. And Jadeveon Clowney he's the key in this game. His run defense is the key. I don't really consider his pass rushing. I think his run defense is the key. Because they're going to want to run the football some. They're going to want to run it with Aaron Jones. But they're also going to want to... But what I will say this, one thing I am worried about with Seattle is the middle of the field, especially with tight ends. They are one of the worst teams in the league against tight ends. I mean, they've had tight end after tight end just gash this defense for yards. And Jimmy Graham, he may be...
Coming back to bite.
He may get a little old.
Coming back to haunt y'all.
But he still has been an all-pro, and I think he still could have one of those vintage performances. So that is one thing I will be keeping an eye on, is tight ends and one-on-one with Trey Flowers. Because Trey Flowers he has not had a great season. I mean, I think PFF has him like 106th among corners.
That's not good.
Gets a lot of penalties. He had 2 big penalties last week against the Eagles that could have costed them, but red zone defense helped. So
it could be. Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be watching the wide receiver opposite of Flowers. Whoever's opposite of Flowers in the middle of the field, because those are 2 weaknesses of this team.
Jeff, let's flip the coin and give me why Green Bay is going to win this game.
2 main reasons. David Bakhtiari is going to eat Jadeveon Clowney up. Jadeveon Clowney's still hurt. You see him limping during the whole last Sunday's game. I mean, he's not healed to the perfection that he usually is, and that's one of the reasons your pass rush is not going to get into the backfield to Aaron Rodgers, a below-average Aaron Rodgers to his standards, because he's a Hall of Fame quarterback by far. And another reason is your offensive line is awful, man. And they have 2 of the best pass rushers in the league in Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith. They're going to be in the backfield eating Russell Wilson for lunch. And as much as I love Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll and DK Metcalf, they're my ultimate favorite just people in the NFL. It's sad to say that I think the Packers are going to eat in Lambeau. And Aaron Jones has been fantastic this season. You know, he's not the flashy player, but he ran against the Vikings, who have a really good rush defense. He rushed 23 times for 154 yards and 2 touchdowns with a long of 56. I mean, the Seahawks defense is very suspect, in my opinion. I think Bobby Wagner is the best middle linebacker in the league by far, but you can't be a one-man show against a talented team like,
Aaron Rodgers,
yeah,
who has a ring. I hate to break it to you, Chris. Look, Seattle has not put up their best football in the last 5 games. They lost 3 of 4 coming in the postseason. They limped into the postseason. I think, when they beat San Francisco, they were in that conversation of best team in football. But since that win, they are 4-3, with wins against the hobbled Eagles, a win against the Vikings, which was really impressive, a win against the Panthers that were, on their very last leg with Kyle Allen. Their losses come Rams, Cardinals, Niners. They beat the Eagles again, which, look, I think the only reason why you beat the Eagles is because they were just as injured as you guys were. I hate to say it, Chris. I think the Packers are winning this one by at least 7. At least 7. And that's being nice. I'm being nice because you're my friend and you're sitting right next to me.
Look, I'm a stranger to this, but I think that they score more than 10 on y'all. And it's just because the injuries, the injuries to your running backs.
Stranger Jeff in here because Jeff can give it to you without any emotional connection.
If you had a healthy offensive line and a healthy Chris Carson, I can see y'all possibly winning this game. But I just don't think you have enough firepower without, because I think Jair Alexander is going to shadow DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett's fantastic, but he's going to be shadowed also by another great safety. And let's see. And Savage, who is a rookie out of Maryland. He's been playing really well as a 31st pick.
Chris, so I just want to ask you, if the Seahawks win this game, what would you do? What will you do if the Seahawks win this game?
I'm hoping that the Niners win. I want part 3.
Part 3.
Both. I want that revenge. I still am not getting over that game.
But hey, if the Vikings win and the Seahawks win,
host.
the Seahawks host the NFC Championship?
I mean, I wouldn't mind that, but I want revenge. I want revenge on San Francisco. I want to go to their house and win it. I would want to go to their house.
Seahawks are better on the road this year. So
8-1.
Yeah.
Best in the NFL.
Yeah.
So, which I would have never, before the season started, I would have never told you that Seattle had the best road record. Would have never told you that.
I think, honestly, though, losing the Niners Week 17 was actually kind of a blessing. Because now you get an extra week of football. I think if you played the Vikings in the playoffs this week, I think the Vikings would have won.
I
think the Niners would beat the Eagles. I think that the Vikings would have beat the Seahawks, and we gotten Niners Packers, and then we'd have gotten Saints Vikings, which actually would have been kind of funny because then if the Vikings beat the Saints, and the Vikings win the NFC Championship against the Niners or the Packers.
Remember, and you also need to remember, the Vikings win this game if they do win the game against the Niners, there's going to be 3 NFC Championships in 11 years. Would have never thought that.
Yeah.
With a team, you don't really think, it's like that talented. That'd
3 and 11 is pretty difficult.
For a team that doesn't really get talked about as an elite team, that would be a good amount.
How many teams does your team have AFC Championships in the last 11 years, Jeff?
0.
Me too. 0 in 11 years. 0 in 18 years.
I got 2.
Yeah, you got 2.
Chance,
so it's difficult.
For 3.
It's difficult, and a chance for 3.
You got a chance for your first one.
And yes, the Texans have a chance for 1. Great segue, Chris. We love that. So yes, the Texans are vying for their first appearance in the AFC Championship game Sunday afternoon to close out divisional weekend as they take on the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. So, the Texans were down 16-0 with 2 minutes to go in the third quarter Saturday night to open up wildcard weekend. And I told myself, this is the same old Texans. Can we fire Bill O'Brien? I knew this would happen. I was, self-deprecating person that I am on my team, as I should be. However, then a man named Deshaun walked into the field and put, the team on his back. He has a back injury because he kept carrying the 52 other people on the team. So, but by the grace of Deshaun Godson, the Houston Texans are in the divisional round, which is kind of unfortunate to say because you would like to hope that this team would get further. But a matchup with the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that they defeated in Arrowhead this season. So a win here is not out of the question. And I'm going to go into detail as to why I believe the Texans will win this game. It's difficult because I didn't even think they'd make it to this point. So, but I actually like my chances better this weekend than I did last week. And here's why. The Texans played so poorly on Saturday. The fact that they are here is by luck. Let's get that right. It's luck. And yeah, it is Deshaun Watson. A little bit of Deshaun Watson, but a lot of luck. They got lucky that Josh Allen was not efficient in that second half. They were lucky that the Bills settled for field goals rather than touchdowns. A little bit of credit to the defense, but I think they were lucky for the most part. Mm-hmm. Refs bailed them out in a couple spots. But the Texans rarely play 2 poor games in a row. And also very rarely do they play a poor game and win. And they played a poor game and won in the most important game of the season. Now you get your next most important game of the season. They are going to... I don't see them coming out flat 2 weeks in a row. And not only and there's one difference that this team is going to have on Sunday that they did not have this past week. His name is Will Fuller. I believe Will Fuller is going to play Sunday. And we'll see how much he plays. Mm-hmm. Knock on wood. Hope he plays. But considering he was a game time decision Saturday, I would assume that 8 days later he would play. And when Will Fuller plays, the Texans are significantly better. Watson is has some of the highest quarterback ratings in the league. I want to say even higher than Lamar Jackson when Will Fuller is on the field. And it's just because Will Fuller opens up that offense so much. It opens up attention for DeAndre Hopkins. It opens up attention for Kenny Stills. It opens up attention for the running game. It opens up attention for Deshaun to go and make plays on his own legs. It opens up so much. And the Texans' offense is so much more dynamic with him on the field. It changes the game. Will Fuller is a game changer. And that is going to be tough for a Chiefs defense that, although has played very well the second half of the season, is still pretty suspect. Let's not lie to ourselves. They almost lost to the Chargers. In Week 17. I'm not convinced that this Chiefs team... Look, the Chiefs are favored this weekend as they should be. The Chiefs are very deserving of the place they are in right now. I do believe they should have been a top 2 team this in the AFC. I do believe they are a top 2 team in the AFC. But the Texans match up so well with the Chiefs. I feel like you got to at least give the Texans a seat at the table. I'm not asking for a win as much as it would. Look, a win would be so huge for this franchise. It would be the furthest any Texans team has ever gone before. Keep in mind, this is a team with 0 trips to the conference championship. And this would be the first conference championship for the Texans if they can get there. And for Deshaun Watson would be a step in the right direction. It would match him with Patrick Mahomes. It would deem him better than Patrick Mahomes, at least for the next 9 months. And those two are always going to be compared. You know it. Throughout their entire careers. It's almost like Luka and Trae Young kind of thing. The two of them are in this exact same boat. And I think that Deshaun Watson against the Chiefs, he's always played well against the Chiefs. You know why? Because the Chiefs traded up so many spots to draft Patrick Mahomes. Not Deshaun Watson. They went all those spots just to get Patrick Mahomes, not him. And I do think that he knows that. And he plays with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. Just like how Patrick Mahomes was playing with a chip on his shoulder when he was playing the Bears earlier this year. I'm sure whenever the Texans play the Bears next season, Deshaun Watson's going to play with a chip on his shoulder for sure. So I think that you got to at least give the Texans a seat at the table for this game. Y'all's thoughts? Yeah. Jeff?
I'm going to give y'all a big seat at the table just because of the fact that J.J. Watt is back and is the captain of that defense by far. That defense looked just totally better coming out of halftime. You know, he had that crucial play that J.J. Watt had, and he really has brought a lot of energy and life to a defense that is suspect, but they're not as suspect as the Chiefs. I feel like the Chiefs' defense relies on Charvarius Ward, who's been a fantastic, underrated corner for this whole season, and they rely on Chris Jones, who's had health issues this season. But at the end of the day, it's going to be the offensive matchup that really matters. I think that Patrick Mahomes, having weapons such as Tyreek Hill, having Damian Williams playing out of his mind lately, I think that if his offensive line protects him, then the Texans should be scared. But if the Texans get into the backfield and rattle, Mr. Froggy, Patrick Mahomes, then they should be a little bit worried. The Texans, having Will Fuller back, as you said, opens up DeAndre Hopkins to not getting double-teamed literally every single play, because DeAndre Hopkins, besides Julio Jones, is the best receiver in the NFL. And if DeAndre Hopkins gets loose and gets on fire like he does when he has another weapon like Will Fuller coming out, then watch out, because Kansas City is going to be a little bit fearful.
I will say this too. One of the more underrated trades of this season, the Chiefs traded Carlos Hyde to the Houston Texans for Martinez Rankin, a backup offensive lineman. Carlos Hyde has run for 1,000 yards this season. And against the Chiefs earlier this year, he wanted revenge. 26 carries, $116, and a touchdown. And then a catch for 14 yards as well. So 130 total yards from Carlos Hyde. Would the Chiefs the Chiefs need Carlos Hyde right now? That's exactly the kind of guy they need for their offense in order to be absolutely unstoppable. And the fact that they had him and traded him, is kind of ironic in my opinion.
Duke Johnson is another factor that is not being talked about.
Oh, yeah.
But if he can get loose in the backfield and play that receiving back like James White, as he has been playing,
he had that
like a receiving back
yeah.
as Deion Lewis, as James White, as the model player, then I think that the Texans really have a good chance of defeating the Chiefs.
He had that crucial 3rd and 18 on Saturday to set up Deshaun Watson to make the play to set up for the field goal. That is not talked about enough. The fact that Duke Johnson was able to catch the ball 10 yards from the first down line and get the first down was pretty sensational. And not a lot of people talk about it because it wasn't the game-winning play, but it was like the setup for the game-winning play. So, but I do want to look. The Chiefs are 12-4. We are kind of dogging on the Chiefs because you know what? I kind of want to right now, but we do have to give the Chiefs some credit here because they are 12-4. They are the second best team in the AFC. So, Chris, why should the Chiefs? Why would the Chiefs win this game if they win this game? Why would they win this game?
I think they would win this game because I think something that's not being talked about enough is the defense for the Kansas City Chiefs. They have played a lot better the second half of the season. Like they're holding teams to minimum points. They're getting takeaways. And it helped when the offense hasn't been as explosive. Because at times, this Chiefs offense has actually been kind of stagnant. But the defense has been playing so well, the offense hasn't had to score 30, 40 points like they did last year. They were able to keep themselves in like these in the 20s and still win.
They went on a streak from week 11 to week 16, 5 games. They had a bye in the middle there where they held teams to 17 points or less.
But look at the teams that they're playing. The Chargers, Phillip Rivers has been playing awful this season. Oakland Raiders, they've been playing awful this season. I mean, the New England Patriots, that's a credible win.
Yeah.
Maybe Brady's not the same.
That's not an offensive team.
Denver Broncos, I mean, Locke has looked really good, but...
Drew Lock tore up the Texans, though.
I mean, he's had his moments. I mean... Elway's going to be fascinated all over him, and it's going to be the same thing as he was with Brock Osweiler. But that's a different story, different time.
And the Bears, not the kind of offensive juggernaut.
Yeah,
but and then the Chargers, they gave up 21 points. That was the one game. That was the one game where they could have lost. I think they were trailing at halftime.
I do look at that, but it's like a step in the right direction though from last year. Like you look at last year's team that they brought in the playoffs. It was explosive offense, horrific defense. This year, a little less explosive offense, but more improved defense. I think that will be better. That's better suited this season. Mm-hmm. At least you have a defense that you can at least rely a little bit on to get a couple of stops.
Something that I will recommend the Chiefs on is that they are in every game they play. Mm-hmm. There's not one game where they're totally and completely out. The 4 losses they have are by 7 points or less. One of those was to the Texans, but also that was the point in the season where Patrick Mahomes was very wobbly, very, not healthy. He's very healthy now, especially after this week off that they've had. I'm going to ask you guys though, right here, Chiefs or Texans? And if you say Chiefs, I will respect it, but sleep with one eye open.
I'm gonna go. I think KC will get the revenge this week. I think they will slightly win this game.
All right. I hope the Seahawks lose by 70. Okay.
But I think this could be a blessing for people that don't like Bill O'Brien, because I feel like they lose this game, Bill O'Brien's fired.
Look.
That's just me. I think he's fired. I think he has to win this game to win. I think he has to win this game to not get fired.
Welcome to the Browns, Bill O'Brien.
Oh,
Bring us to the playoffs.
Whoa. I mean, look, here's the thing. Bill O'Brien, Houston fans do rag on him a lot because he always has been he hasn't been able to conquer the next step for the team. And this is the next step. This is the chance for Bill O'Brien to take the next step, to overcome his demons, and win the next game. It's something that, he's been in the playoffs 4 times in 6 years. That's also pretty impressive. Not a lot of teams can say that they've been to the playoffs 4 times in 6 years.
That's true.
So, although, props, but also 4 times in 6 years, you've been to the playoffs and you haven't won more than 1 game. The one time you won a game was against, third string Connor Cook and the Raiders. But, you got to win against Josh Allen. Yes, it was fluky, but you're here now. This is the chance for the Texans to really make a statement. I feel like if any team has something to prove this weekend, it's the Texans. Texans have more to prove, I think, than any other team this weekend. And that's why I'm going to go with the Chiefs for the reverse jinx, but I really hope that doesn't happen. I'll leave it at that.
I'm going to go with a toss-up. I think that the Chiefs will win, but I will not be surprised at the least that
I wouldn't be surprised at any result this weekend, because I think the 8 teams that are here, although I don't believe it's the 8 best teams, sorry, Saints, I think the Saints are one of the 8 best teams, but I think that all 8 of these teams have proven that they are capable of being in the conference championship.
They have each team has a proven aspect to their team.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes for the Chiefs. You got Deshaun Watson for the Texans. You got Derrick Henry for the Titans. You got Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh for the Ravens. You have Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson for the Seahawks. You got Aaron Rodgers for the Packers.
Yeah.
You've got Richard Sherman in that defense for the 49ers.
Every team has aspects you need to contend for a Super Bowl. Now it's just the chance to not just contend and just go for it. I'm going to ask you this, Jeff. I know the answer for Chris, and I know the answer for myself. What game are you looking forward to the most out of the 4 this weekend?
I'm looking forward to the Vikings game because I think it's the biggest toss-up of them all. As the saying goes, defense wins championships, and most of these defenses and the remaining teams, they're all pretty suspect. I mean, the Tennessee Titans are probably the number 1 spot for me. I think Wesley Woodyard is a fantastic linebacker. I think that Dory Jackson's playing well. But I am looking forward to the Vikings game, and I think that game will be the closest and the biggest toss-up besides the Houston-Kansas City game.
Yeah. I mean, look, if this weekend's games were anything like last weekend's games, we're in for a treat. But that is all for us today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hitting the field this season, we have so much planned, more planned this season than we ever have before. Season 10, which is so crazy to believe. It's my 6th and final season with Hitting the Field, so I'm very I will get emotional at some point this season, but it's only the beginning, so we have so much in store for you guys. Episodes every Monday. Might I Add starts this Monday with Kyle Partain, where we talk some UCF basketball with basketball season underway. We'll also have another podcast this week to preview the national championship game for Monday. So we have a 3-day weekend of some pretty solid football over the weekend. We got Vikings-Niners on Saturday. We got Ravens-Titans on Saturday. And then Seahawks-Packers on Sunday. And Houston-Kansas City on Sunday as well. And then LSU-Clemson.
Yeah.
LSU or Clemson, Jeff?
LSU.
Okay. I know your answer to this question.
LSU, but would not surprise me if Clemson won.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go Clemson just to go against Graham with you guys. But
I mean, Joe Burrow is just
it's a good
fantastic.
Game. It's a great game, Joe Burrow, and we got if you do not like the football games this weekend, you are not a fan of football. It's true. It's just the truth.
Yeah, these are all good.
But Chris, thank you so much for joining me. Jeff, welcome to the Hitting the Fam, and thank you for coming. And joining us today on the podcast. We're really excited to have you and can't wait to see what you got in store for the show.
Yes, sir. I'm glad to be here.
And we will see you guys later this week for another episode of the Hitting the Field podcast.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated champs, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me blacks.
Hit the stop.